Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to this, the first in new stream, where it is basically me dicking around in the interactive story maker game, interactive story maker, Twine. Now, me and Packbat have had conversations before where I have tried to convince that game things like Twine, the Twine as an RPG maker are in fact games that just happen to produce other games at the end of them.
I do remember this conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, this is just a text adventure that, this is a, parser-based text adventure game that at the end produces a, link-based adventure game.
What's the terminology? Choice based?
I don't know. Hyperlink-based?
I know that there was an entire conversation about it in the interactive fiction community, and I think the big interactive fiction tournaments have settled on the idea of we're not going to have separate categories for choice-based and parser-based interactive fiction games all in the same category, because I think the Twine has a lower barrier of entry, so putting it in a separate category felt tied into a lot of sort of snobbishness that was uncomfortable for people.
Yeah.
And possibly problematic. So they folded them into the same category.
I think one of the things that I think is interesting when you talk about things like barriers to entry is, so I mean, I'm perfectly capable of programming other kinds of games, whether using tools like Gargoyle or other interactive fiction making tools, or just doing it from ground up, which sounds like a fucking hassle. I mean, I know it's a fucking hassle. I've tried it. I can do that. But Twine has so much of... I prefer using Twine because it has so much of the kind of the busy work done already.
Yeah.
Twine lets you get down to actually making the... Twine lets you get down to actually making the interactive game or interactive story. And at the end of the day, that's what we want to be looking at. You know, it's like in my day job, programming skills are good, but at the end of the day, I'm being judged on the science that I'm using to make them with.
Yeah.
I could understand if the point was a contest specifically to show off your ability to program a game.
Yeah, like the text adventure equivalent of those demo contests? Yeah. Where you program a chip to do something really interesting by just going ridiculousness on the code.
Yeah. Or you have to submit, so you're having to submit the game and the code, and it's just is this code readable? Is this code understandable for other people? How well did you?
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, sorry, just programming stuff. I can understand, going, okay, if you're doing Twine, you're not gonna get good marks in that bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if the purpose is to make a good interactive fiction or a good game, then it's the end product that I think should probably matter.
Yeah, exactly. Like these tournaments are not like the point of these tournaments is the pieces that are created for the tournaments, and they aren't restricted. They weren't restricted format before, so making them restricted format because a new format appeared is an odd choice that they couldn't really defend and didn't want to.
Yeah. And also, I will say, as someone who's this isn't all my Twine games. In fact, I know Packbat can see one in particular that's missing that we're not going to name on the stream.
Yeah.
But like I've made quite a lot of Twine games. I've done quite a lot of stuff in Twine, and I will say, actually, in many ways, Twine is a lot stupider than a lot of them. Like Twine is difficult in a way because it's simplified, and the way it interacts with JavaScript is kind of weird. So actually, like working out, actually, like working out how to do stuff in Twine is sometimes quite an interesting feat of programming, just because it's something that any other program should be able to handle easily, like the concept of loops.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Like it's the difference between this is a programming language which is meant for a very general purpose and is a pain to use because you have to like rebuild the wheel every time you want to have a wheel in your game. Versus this is a program versus the kind of problems you run into with like programming games, like games which are intended to be games where you program, like Space Chem, where it's like, it would be really nice if I had some version control on this. I don't even know how to use version control, and I know that it would be super helpful here because all I have is an undo button, and that's. But yeah, like they don't give you enough tool. They don't give you all the tools because they're giving you a set of tools to make it easy to do things that they picked that they thought you would want to do.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I think we've kind of. I'm about to try and say something else. About to try and add to that, but it's just like, no, you said it.
Yeah. There's, I think, another thing about Twine that contributes to some of the weirdness is that part of the appeal is that, I mean, I heard someone talking about like seeing a tutorial which is like, you don't need to be able to program to do this in Twine. You can just do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, so this is programming, this thing that you just told them how to do.
Yeah, like Twine, you are using essentially a very specialized programming language for this.
Yeah.
But I thought before we start, so the idea is basically at the end of this. So I'm going to do this every week, kind of Wednesday afternoon streams, and as we go along, we are going to build a game together. Basically, so I'll take suggestions from the chat on what to do, like puzzles that we can put in. And so the idea is essentially less like we're not going to be aiming for a fantastic game, but rather we're going, like the game's going to have lots of individual. What I think I want to do is have a game that has lots of individual bits and mechanics that we've kind of gotten in there. So this will be just a nice working example of a whole load of stuff that we can do in Twine.
Sure.
So whether that ends up being one game, or if we decide actually what we want to do, we want to make several small games, each looking at different mechanics. That'd be cool. But I thought before I start, I'd just talk about some of the other stuff that you can use Twine for, which is some of the things that I've got open here.
I did see something called North Sea Influences, and I'm guessing that's a climate thing?
So if I just open this, so this is what it looks like from a in the actual editor. So if we go back to the home page, each of these is an individual story, and then this is the editor. So each of these blocks is called a passage, and they're effectively like the pages in the story that you're going between.
Yeah.
So essentially, what's happening here is, I'm using this as kind of a way of, I'm kind of using this as a mental mind map, which you can then go into and add more detail in. So this is, you got the sea temperature, which is connected to the, which is determined by the surface fluxes and the heat that the ocean moves around. And then from each of these, we've got all the different ways that these link into. So you've got the latent and sensible heat fluxes, which is linked to wind stress. So the latent heat flux is basically evaporation due to wind, and then sensible heat is like the wind like transfer of heat between the air and the sea.
Yeah. I remember in heat transfer class, so the as a mechanical engineer, it was much smaller scale, but like the three modes of transport they talked about were like a conduction, convection, and radiation. And like the sort of fourth mode of transport they didn't really talk about, I thought of it as like advection, which is you take something hot and you move it somewhere else, and now heat is moved from one place to another place.
So that's basically the ocean heat transport. That's the primary way that it happens, because the velocity gradient. Well, it's a combination of, you got velocity gradients, you got temperature gradients. Anyway, I just wanted to use that as an example of things that you could use Twine for. I didn't mean to get into a discussion of how ocean heat works.
Sorry,
it's okay. It's I got distracted by it as well. Like it's both of us. Like we're both bad at this. We hopefully will have a third member later who will call us out on this stuff, because she is not a scientist. But anyway, let's go back.
Thanks, Nate. Nate in the chat just saying, chemical engineering convection definitely gets split into advection and temperature diffusion.
Yeah, it very much depends on how you think about these problems. Very much depend on like how you're doing it.
Yeah.
So one of the other things I did, in fact, one of the first things I actually did in Twine was, so as you know, as you may or may not know, I don't know if people are just randomly finding this stream for the first time, I stream the game Sunless Sea. And so what I thought of was essentially doing a review of it in Twine. So it looks like this. So I've got some various different categories, which is the atmosphere of the game, the narrative, the mechanics, and the accessibility. This is not the full one. Oh well. So the point of this review is, if we just go and hit play. So this is what the default appearance of one of the formats of Twine. So we'll get into that when we're doing it in a minute. But essentially, so how this works is you click on how to read. I didn't finish that bit. Essentially, I've given a score to each of these four traits. So mechanics, atmosphere, narrative, and accessibility. But then when you click on it, so obviously I do a kind of review, giving my view on each of these segments, and then I give it a score. I think this is out of 5. But then essentially, in this so essentially you get a score, but then you get a series of options saying, in this version it's how important is this to you. So, you know, if you mechanics is very important, but this looks terrible, you can put very important and I disagree with your view. And if we go back,
in the full version, it would change the net score.
It would change your score here.
It would come up with a score that is you guessing based on the view what you think of it.
So basically create a review for something. You basically create your own idea of, am I actually interested in what's being reviewed?
I'm reminded of a blog post I saw. There was someone who's doing a post where they were like, I did a bunch of different scientific variations on this recipe, and here's all the different results. And one of the people on Tumblr who was reblogging it was like, this kind of stuff is really interesting, and I keep finding myself being like, that is really good data, and I'm going to use this particular thing that you said was unsatisfactory because it's what I want.
Yeah. So, so those are two things that I've seen. I know there's definitely kind of interactive essays, so you start, you have a piece, but then you'll have individual links in the text that kind of go into more detail about stuff. I've started writing some of them, but to be honest, I didn't get very far just because I often get distracted by projects. They can sometimes take me a while.
Yeah.
To be honest, a lot of the stuff that I removed here, that I removed before, that I moved out of a folder where the stories are kept, before we started this, a lot of it is just clutter, games that only have four passages and only 500 words in total between them. So I just didn't want them cluttering up the page, basically.
Yeah, that's legit.
So, what I think today, we're not going to do anything very exciting. I'm going to go through some very basic stuff with Twine. And then I thought probably the simplest game to program is rock, paper, scissors. Paper, scissors?
Yeah, rock, paper, scissors.
Super simple. So we're just going to go through... This probably won't be very long because, we're not doing anything exciting or anything particularly big. So let's call this Stream 1... rock, paper, scissors. So, add. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you start it. And so, all we have here is this blank untitled passage. So if I you can see what text is in the passage here. So double click this passage to edit. We've got a couple of different view options. So this bit, you get more passages. You get to see more kind of the area, which is very useful when you have lots and lots of passages, as I sometimes do. And then the final view zooms out even more, and it's just literally passage by passage. So you can see you can have a lot of passages, and they do multiply quickly.
Yeah.
I have lost my passage. There we are. So this little rocket symbol means it's the starting passage. You can so on any passage you can choose to change the where it is. You can also change, if you have a very important passage that everything else is coming out from, you can change the size of it. I'm going to keep it big just so that people can see it.
Yeah.
So this is what it looks like when you double click on a passage to edit it. So there's obviously the title of a passage. So we'll call this start. There are some passages that have special names that we'll get into later.
Sure.
That you don't want to mess around with. But for now, we can just do start.
Yeah.
And so if I just get rid of this, so actually it gives you a bit of information if you just have a blank passage. So you can use stuff like bold, italics, superscript, strike through, and other HTML tags and stuff. And then, so this is all for what's called Harlow, which is one of the formats for Twine.
Yeah.
So if we click play, sorry, I'll just example text here.
I was going to say that there's not going to be much of a passage.
So if we hit play, it's just like this. I'm not really I'm not really super fond of Harlow. Like, so what I tend to do, we're going to go here and click change story format. So my personal favorite, so we'll go down them. Harlow is the default version, so I'm using Twine 2, not Twine 1. There are some important differences between them, including that Twine 2 has a lot less documentation. Just because Twine 1 has had more time to build up, essentially, a wiki. Right. Harlow 1 is... so Harlow 1 is basically, it's Harlow from Twine 1 kind of ported directly over to... It's like the second version. It's like the Harlow for Twine 1 kind of juried onto Twine 2. So if we do that, then I think... Yeah, so the most obvious change is that it's gone from white on black to black on white.
The default styling changes.
But there's a bunch of under the hood things.
Yeah.
So, but actually, the one I like is called Sugar Cube. I don't really touch Snowman. So Sugar Cube is, it's got a bit more things it can do. Sometimes at the cost of being a bit more complicated. But it also has a couple of things as default. So if we do Sugar Cube and now click on play, the big thing is that we've now got this sidebar, which can be very helpful just for kind of displaying variables and stuff like that. And you can actually customize the appearance of it. So let's start by you stare down your opponent, both of you holding up clenched fists. You take a step towards each other, the air blistering. The air blistering between you, blistering in your glare. In your glares, both of you raise your fists and shake them 3 times. That is more on brand, Nate. Making these both holding up Pokeballs. Your Pokeballs, and the battle begins. Who do you send out? So we're going to do this the most basic way. First. So what we're going to do, we're going to use links. So links are defined by so basically you type you use two square brackets to define them. I've actually done them in reverse order because I think it goes Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Charmander. In both decks. How about that?
It's fine. No, I don't know what the hand gestures would be for Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle.
Neither do I. So
we should put our crack team of researchers on that question.
I feel like I've misspelled Bulbasaur, but oh well. So, helpfully, it has automatically created 3 new passages for us to play with. Mm-hmm. So as you can see, they're called Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur. This is how. So this is basically. So if we click on play, then we've got these 3 links here. So send out Charmander, and it takes us to the passage named Charmander.
Yeah.
So now what we want to do, we want to use one of the other most basic things in the game, the set macro. So we want to so macros, unlike the links, are done by 2 arrows. Angle brackets.
Yeah.
I know what things are called. I'm a professional. So we go set. Now we're going to make a variable, and we're going to call it your Pokemon. So I tend to. So this is where I think I'm kind of lazy. Because what we could do is set it to a string Charmander.
Yeah.
Or I could set it to 0 and then have what's called a text array later that we call back to go, oh, if your Pokemon is 0, it's a Charmander.
Yeah. And then you could use the same 0, 1, 2. It's less clear in the passage, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna set it to 0. The reason that we're doing 0, not 1, is because Twine is Twine, like the first number in an array is indexed as 0. It's 0 indexed. Not 1 indexed. So that keeps on catching me out because usually when I'm programming, I'm using MATLAB, which starts index at 1. For those of you who know programming, you may have noticed that I keep avoiding using a lot of the technical terms, or at least, kind of spreading them out a bit. That's mainly because I'm not entirely. I don't know what my audience for this stream is. I'm going to say that right now. So I'm kind of keeping it at I'm trying to make sure everyone can understand it level. So if you're watching this and you're in the comment, obviously if you're on YouTube you can't say things in the stream comment. But if you're in the stream and you're in the stream comments and you want me to kind of explain stuff, just let me know. So we want to set your Pokemon to 0. You send out Charmander. The adorable flaming lizard. You also get to see how bad I'm spelling. How bad I am at spelling. Lizard. you wait to see what your opponent uses. So, I'm using a trick here, which is, so essentially I am, so here what happens is, you can split up links. So this bit is the text that the person clicking on it will see in the passage. This bit is the actual passage that it's going to link to.
So all three passages are going to link back to the same opponent passage,
Yes.
I'm guessing.
So for ease, I'm going to copy that.
Yes.
Because, like all programmers, I'm kind of lazy. So we've created this opponent. Right.
Right. Actually, if you wanted, you could copy the whole passage and then just change the number and the name description.
Yeah. So, Squirtle, we want to set your Pokemon to 1. You send out Squirtle, the cute little water type. You wait to see what your opponent uses. And then Bulbasaur, so you want to change that to 2. You send out Charmander, you send out Bulbasaur, the charming plant animal hybrid. So,
there's a missing comma on Squirtle.
Ooh, is there? Dun dun dun. Okay. So what happens here is, if we just click play, so you send out Charmander, wait to see what opponent uses. So we'll just Squirtle, they all link into this passage.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to. So what I quite often do is if I have things that I know I'm going to be using throughout the game, I just put them in start, because that means that the player can't open the game without going through start. So I know they're always going to be there.
Right. This is like initialization stuff, right? Okay.
So here we're going to create a new variable that we're going to call Pokemon names. But here, rather than just making it one name, we are going to make it an array. So to do an array, use 1 square bracket, not 2, 1. And so we're going to do Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur. So just a list of names. And if you wanted to make this really complicated, you could just keep going with every other Pokemon. Like we could add Eevee, Mew, Sigilyph, Durant, all that good stuff. But for now, we're only using these 3.
Yeah, we are playing rock, paper, scissors, and no lizards or Spocks. Or well, actually, we do have lizards, so never mind.
They're all lizards. Because for some reason, all 3 of the first starters are based on reptiles. Which I think is kind of a throwback to when Pokemon was it was supposed to be much more dinosaur-like, but that kind of changed early in production of the first games. So you can kind of see that in stuff like Rhydon, which was the first Pokemon ever actually designed, which is a very dinosaur-looking Pokemon. But anyway, so we're going to end the array, so we put another square bracket at the end, and then we're going to end the set with another set of angular brackets.
Yep.
So what we're going to do here is we are going to do your, and then we are going to make it so that so that whatever Pokemon you just sent out is what's going to appear here. So there's two ways of doing this, and I'll do the more kind of complicated one first, and then not complicated but more kind of complete version first, and then I'll show you the quicker version later, just because more complete version is the one that shows up more often, but the quicker one is available.
Yeah.
So we're going to use the print macro, and what print does is it basically you can put any kind of what's called expression here, and it will print the response. So just as a quick example, if I tell it to print 1 plus 1, and then we just quickly play through to that point. So Charmander, Squirtle, it will print 2. So print is very useful. So if you're doing like a combat, if you created a combat system, and you want to add up, so you'll say you print all the different factors that go into damage, but then at the end you only just come out with the last number.
Yeah.
But here what we're going to do, we're going to print Pokemon names. Did I call it Pokemon name or Pokemon names?
Let's check.
Names. Okay, plural. Pokemon names. And then, so this is basically saying, okay, we want to know what the index of the, we want to know where it is in the array. So Charmander is position 0, Squirtle is position 1, Bulbasaur is position 2. So we're going to call that by saying your Pokemon there. So that tells it that it wants to print the word that's in the array Pokemon names at the position your Pokemon.
Right.
Note that all variables will need to have a $sign in front of it. That's how you define them. And then we're going to end it. Stands in front of you. Waiting. So just to check that that works, we're just going to go through Charmander.
Can we do... I was going to suggest... Right. Okay. I was going to suggest going through one of the other ones, because we always go through Charmander.
Bulbasaur and Squirtle.
Yep.
So, let's put a bit of flavour into this. So rather than just saying it stands there, what I think I want to do is, so the next sentence, what it appears, how it appears will depend on which Pokemon you sent out. So here we are going to use an if macro. So basically if says, if this value is X, then do this. But if it's Y, do this. So there's a whole load of things you can do. But for now, we want to say, keeping it simple, if your Pokemon is 0, here's Flaming Tail. Which is from side to side. And then we want to do else if. So this is kind of the next statement. So it's going, okay, if that one's not true, then we move on to this one.
Yeah.
Pokemon is 1. She impatiently taps her foot, waiting for the fight. And then finally, Bulbasaur, Elsif is 2. He nervously stares at your opponent. And then very importantly, we want to do end if, so that it knows, everything else doesn't depend on this if statement. So,
can I make a silly
Yep.
suggestion? There's a else command, right? Which is if none of the other ifs came up.
Yeah.
Right? Can we stick in an else command where it's missing no?
Else missing no dreams. We can actually get. I think we can actually get that working. Okay, so basically, what usually happens, so we'll go through. We'll show the if command working as it should do first, and then we'll try and get missing no.
Okay.
So first of all, we're going to just play it, and we're going to do it at the start. So we're going to send out Squirtle. Toothless water type. Your Squirtle stands in front of you waiting. She impatiently taps her foot, waiting for a fight. Okay. No problem, because we've gone through and so we have defined what your Pokemon is here.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that you can do is that you can test the story starting from a particular passage.
Mm-hmm.
But if we've done that, then we haven't set what your Pokemon is.
Yeah.
So if we do that, so basically this error is saying you're trying to print. Could we also didn't initialize Pokemon names?
Yeah.
So this is just an error saying you're trying to get me to print a undefined index position of an undefined index.
Yeah.
Yes, Twine does automatically clear everything when you restart. But then here it's okay. None of these are true, so missing no is screaming.
That actually makes it even more appropriate.
Yeah. So you should never get this in play. If the player manages to get this, something has gone horribly, horribly wrong.
Yep. I am pleased that we have stuck this in here.
So, the next question is, what is your opponent going to be sending out? Now, obviously, we don't want to have this in control of the player.
Mm-hmm.
So, we are going to use another macro called either, which is essentially a random number macro. And there's obviously, if you know anything about programming and maths, there's an idea of, can you really get random numbers, particularly when you only have 3 options? And the answer is here, I don't care. We're using either, and we're not thinking about that. Okay.
I mean, there's a longer answer, but that answer is entirely sufficient.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, we're going to do set. Opponent Pokemon. In fact, I'm not going. Variable names are case sensitive, so I don't particularly want to I don't particularly want to have to worry about, did I set this to a different name? So
Yeah.
I'm being kind of good here, and I'm typing out my variable names like longly so that you can see what they are like just by looking at them. If I was just doing this by myself, like with not being on a stream, your Pokemon would probably be called YP, and opponent Pokemon would be called OP.
Freaking OP.
So what we're going to do, we're going to set opponent Pokemon to either brackets 0, 1, or 2.
Mm-hmm. Okie dokie.
And then do that there. So basically, each time this runs, it will choose one of these 3 options. And then your opponent sends out print Pokemon names your
Opponent.
Yes, opponent Pokemon, not your Pokemon. That could be very bad.
Well, I mean, it would make for a very even match.
Yeah.
But it would also make choosing a Pokemon for your opponent kind of pointless.
Yeah. Sends out a so again, let's just check this works. So one thing we can do, rather than clicking play here, I'm going to click test. And this opens it in debug view. So basically we can see, okay, these are links, and then there's been a set, a variable has been set properly.
Yeah.
So we're going to send out Squirtle, wait to see what your opponent uses, and your opponent also sends out a Squirtle.
Mm-hmm.
So what we can do is if we go back and click on it again, good. Okay, yeah. So this time it chose Charmander because it's being randomly chosen each time.
Yeah.
So sometimes that can be important, like where do you set when and where do you set the Pokemon? Because if we had like links in the sidebar here, in fact, it might if you had links in the sidebar to like other passages, like a how to play passage, you might be able to click on that and then come back, and then your opponent will have sent out a different thing.
Right. So, like, if you wanted, you could take that set and put it in the start passage, and your opponent picks a Pokemon before you do.
Yeah. We don't, but then we have a problem that if we want to make it so you're doing repeated matches, you can't do it.
Or you have to have another set somewhere else.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a way to do it, but I think we're going to. So that's a detail that we'll get into at another time because there are ways around it, quite easy ways.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do it now. Hold on, someone's at the door. I'm just gonna mute myself for a bit.
I will go ahead and answer Bi-Fi's question, if she likes. I mean, I could ramble about random for a minute while our host checks the door. Basically, the way randomness, there's two ways you can get a random number with a computer program, and I saw Matt turn those off, and they're still not off. There are two ways you can get random numbers with a computer program. And one is for the program to like pull a random number from somewhere else. So like if you want to be really clever, you can have something where it's like you have a radio that is listening to static in a Faraday cage and turning that static into a series of random numbers so that nobody can predict what the next number is or whatever. And the second way is to use a pseudo random number generator as which is basically you start off with some initialization number like effectively your seed numbers it's called is like the shuffle you put on the deck of cards before you start dealing cards, and then you deal off cards, and if you shuffle it to the exact same arrangement, the exact same seed number, then you get this exact same cards dealt off the stack. But if the person you're dealing cards to doesn't know how you shuffled the deck, then it's fine. So for the purpose of this game, we don't expect anybody to be trying to pull any fancy tricks with trying to manipulate the random number generator. So we don't have to care. It just has to be good enough that the player can enjoy the game. So that would be my little so I was giving an engineer answer, or at least a programmer answer to your question. Philosophy answer, philosophy answer would take more work for me to try to give.
I'm back.
Welcome back. I rambled about random number generation and why we don't care about the difference between really random and not really random for this game.
Ooh. Right then.
And then Bipuri also said that she was talking about philosophy, and I was like, I'm going to need some preparation if I'm going to talk about philosophy because I haven't really thought about it enough.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wi-Fi. All right. Okay. Okay, so program so far, you pick a Pokemon, either thing, random number generator thing picks a Pokemon.
So the next step is we want to know who wins. So we're going to go battle, but then we're going to call it battle because that's easier to remember when I'm typing the
Maybe a capital B? Like all the passage names seem to be capitalized.
Cool. Right then. So the first outcome that we want to look at is what if you've sent out the same Pokemon? So we're going to be lazy, and because we've got quite a lot to type here, so I'm not going to distinguish each Pokemon. We're not going to have a different result for Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur. Sure. So what we're going to do, we're going to say if your Pokemon let's see, hold on, I just need to double check something, which is, because because I can never quite remember the correct syntax for saying if this number is the same as this. I think that there's a couple of different ones that are all, I think there's a couple of different ones which are all valid, but I just wanted to double check because that's always Twine if. And also, I need to check. One of the problems is that the official Twine documentation is all for Harlow, and obviously we're using yeah. So yeah, so we can use is or so we can either use is or we can use equal. So is so this is actually if it's equivalent. So there's a slight difference here, but you know. So let's use is because that's if it's exactly equal.
Yeah.
Opponent Pokemon the two sides battle fiercely, but neither can get the upper hand. Eventually, you call it a draw.
Mm.
Yeah.
Did we want to do an else if?
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. I don't know what I started doing here. So then we want to do. So let's just kind of go through in order.
Ooh.
Because what we want to do is if your Pokemon is 0.
I have an idea for a way to do it a little bit lazier because I was thinking about this while typing. I think if you switch opponent Pokemon from if you put in a thing where if opponent Pokemon is 0, you make it 3, then you can check to see if your opponent's Pokemon is 1 more than your Pokemon.
So I actually did thought of that, but it's so basically I'm going with the simplest way of doing it, and I am going to basically make it slowly more complicated.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So the simplest way of doing it, this also means I can introduce a couple of other tricks that you can use.
Okay.
Because again, it's not just how well can we do it; it's also showing multiple ways of doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
So if your Pokemon is 0, and so these two and signs means we want to test it. So if all of the conditions that we're putting in here are true.
Yeah.
If we did 2 vertical lines, then that's or. So if your Pokemon is 0 or the opponent Pokemon is X, then this. Yeah. So we're going to do it and first. So if your Pokemon and opponent Pokemon is 1, so this is Charmander. But this is your Charmander versus their Squirtle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Nate. Point out a typo. Charmander starts off with an Ember, but unfortunately,
no, other way. Wait, is it opponent's Pokemon throughout or opponent Pokemon?
We need to
throughout?
check. Opponent Pokemon. Yes, it is opponent Pokemon. I was right.
It was Okay.
But unfortunately, Squirtle easily puts it out with a water gun.
Thanks, Nate.
That then KOs your fire lizard. You have lost the battle.
Mm.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. It should be an else if for
Yes.
this. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for pointing that out.
Okay.
So actually, just thinking about the way that you suggested it, so checking, Packbat, just a reminder, Packbat suggested earlier that I could do, so basically what we do is if opponent Pokemon is 0, so we can set. So what we probably actually want to do is make new variable, but I just want to show one of the issues with using this to actually do less typing. And then end if. Then what Packbat suggested was, so if opponent Pokemon is so if opponent Pokemon is your Pokemon +1. Then the problem is, once we've resolved that, like, we still need to do, if we're, like, unless we want to have all the results be, the same, like, the same.
Yeah.
So we still have to have a load of if statements here to work out what
Right.
each Pokemon is.
I was, in fact, thinking of how could I do this so that it's all completely generic and, like, no flavor.
So
given that we want to do flavor anyway, that makes no sense.
Yeah. But this kind of method, you know, kind of having a general method so you don't need to write out each case, is generally a good thing to be able to do. So it's not like a bad idea. It's just, in this particular case, I don't think it's what we want to do.
Yeah.
So the other option would be essentially to have kind of nested if statements. So here we'd say else if your Pokemon is 1. Yeah, we could do, so if we just had you have 1 and you have 1 and you have lost, which actually in a more traditional rock paper scissors thing would actually be, you know, you would actually kind of want that. So
yeah.
I think just because we're adding flavor, we're making things more complicated. Oh well. So in this case, what we're doing here, you can add if statements inside other if statements. So here, rather than saying, else if your Pokemon is 1 and the other Pokemon is 2, then we say if your Pokemon is 1, then we also want to check if your opponent Pokemon is 0 or 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another. Yeah. Modular arithmetic is a useful thing, and I'm definitely going to do a session based around it. But not now, Nate. Like, we're doing the basics.
Yeah. The entire point of my suggestion was to avoid doing the modular arithmetic. Yeah. But yeah.
It was a good suggestion, but I think we're going a different way.
A question.
Yes.
Do we want to do the ampersand thing where we have one if statement per pair, or do we want to do 3 if statements, one for each of yours, and then 3 if statements, one for each of theirs? I don't know what structure would be better.
So that's what I was kind of saying. So, to be honest, we can actually just kind of alternate. So we can do, for this we'd have 2, so we're going to have 2 for Charizard, because if it...
The second one should probably be 2.
I just copied and pasted it. So, because the first case, which is they're both 0, that's already taken care of up here.
Yep.
So we only need to worry about 2 cases here.
Yeah.
And tries to take out to trip Charmander with vines, but he jumps over them and takes her out with an ember. So basically, I think we're using Water Gun, Vine Whip, and Ember are the three moves that are going to be mentioned here.
Makes sense.
So for Squirtle, we're going to use nested if statements just because we can. So here, if opponent Pokemon is 0, their Charmander starts with an Ember, but Squirtle easily puts out the flames and KOs him with a water gun. You have 1. Then we're just going to copy and paste you have 1 battle bit here. So let's just put in the other if case. So if opponent Pokemon is 2, your Squirtle doesn't get a chance to attack before Bulbasaur's Vine Whips hit her and knock her out. So as you can see, these matches are very quick.
Yes.
That should be an else if. And then finally, so Packbat, you get to choose for the last one. Are we going to do a single line, or are we going to do a nested?
Let's do a single line.
Cool.
Oh, don't forget you have lost the battle.
You have lost the battle. So basically, that end if should be associated with this if.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this might go wrong.
If it goes wrong, we can change it.
But it shouldn't do. Because I'm pretty sure I've nested ifs before. I'm gonna be lazy. Copy and paste. Every programmer's favorite tool.
Yes.
Opponent Pokemon is 0. Then you try to have Bulbasaur trip the fire lizard with Vine Whip, but he jumps over them and he attacks and hits your Pokemon with an Ember Head on. You have lost the battle. And so, final one. Copy and paste. So obviously, if you have there are other ways of doing this. Like, if you have lots of options, obviously you wouldn't want to type them out one by one.
Yeah.
Like I said, the point of today is to keep things very nice and simple. So we're just going to kind of do it the brute force method. As you get better at programming, basically, you learn how to do it. One of the big things of programming is working out how to do it without brute forcing it.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the learning curve of programming. So
2 and 1.
The opponent's Squirtle doesn't get a chance to attack before Bulbasaur hits him with a Vine Whip and knocks him out. And then you have won the battle.
The last else if should be a 2 and a 1?
Yes, it should.
Okay.
That's good. I copy and paste and then didn't check and didn't make the necessary edits.
Right. I think we should have all cases covered.
So let's just test it out. So we'll give it a few playthroughs, and then we'll send out Squirtle. But we don't use battle, so we should win. Yep. Hold on, let's try and get it. Have a Bulbasaur battle. We have lost the battle.
Okay, so the 2 Squirtle options both work.
Yeah. Bulbasaur. Battle. Call it a draw. Battle. We lose. Battle. We won. Then finally, we win. Lose. And we draw. Okay, so everything's working fine. So
Yeah.
if we wanted to test it more easily, what we could have done. So there's a thing here called plus passage that would add a new passage. So we can make a new passage, and then we can explicitly we can use that and basically say, okay, we're gonna set your Pokemon to 0, opponent Pokemon to 0, and then link it into battle, and then start it from here. As a kind of bug test. But we don't want to do that, so I'm going to delete it.
Yeah.
Right. So there's just one other thing that so basically we now have basically a working rock paper scissors simulator.
Yeah.
It's a bit clunky, it's a bit brute force, but hey, it works. And if you're more interested in making a game, actually just being able to say, hey, it works, isn't that bad.
Yeah.
You okay?
I'm fine.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm doing okay.
So the one thing that I want to do, that I want to do last is two things. Is one, make this repeatable, so you can go back to the start. So what we're going to do here is going to put it called later on, and we are going to move it up here just for clarity. And so what we're going to do here is say the two of you both head back to the Pokemon Center to heal up. Later on, you pass each other in the street and your eyes meet. It is once again time for a battle. And then, so for the last bit, I'm going to basically copy and paste this bit. And so what that means is essentially when you finish the battle, you go back up to this bit. So then hopefully, so send out Charmander, send out Bulbasaur, we win. Later on, send out Squirtle, send out Charmander, we win again. We're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So basically we can just have this loop.
Yeah.
But then, so the last thing that I'm going to introduce here is so we're going to initialize another variable up here. Another two variables, in fact. So we're going to set player score to 0. Set opponent to 0. So there's two ways. So basically, these two variables are going to track how often the two sides win, lose, and draw. So there's two ways of doing it. Either we can say a win gets you 2 points, a draw gets you 1 point each, or and a lose gives you 0. Or we could say a win gets you 1, a draw gets you 0, and a lose gets you -1. Like, do we?
I would probably suggest a win gets you 1, a draw gets you a half, and a loss gets you 0.
That also works. So I mentioned before, like we're using we're using Sugar Cube, so we might as well use its most obvious kind of appearance here, which is the sidebar. So how we edit the sidebar is we create a new passage and we give it a special name, which is story caption. And we are going to tell it to... so this is what I meant by... so earlier when we did the print command, just to remind you guys, it's here, like the print macro. I mentioned there was another way of doing it. Well, in SugarCube, you can just type in the variable name and it will display it. Opponent score. Your score. Opponent's score. And now if we hit play, hopefully...
Oh, we need to change... Right. They're displayed, but we still need to put in the thing to give you points.
Yeah. But I just wanted to do that first, and then now we'll do the thing that we get points.
Right. Yeah, no, that's totally fine.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of new two more new variables, because so one is going to call your score mod. Actually, no, let's call it mod your score so it's more clear. Okay. Basically, so I don't accidentally type set your score to, because I have to type mod first.
Makes sense.
To 0.5. Theoretically, you can use one set macro to set multiple variables, so you don't have to type set again. I've had bad experience with trying to do that. Like the syntax is surprisingly finicky. So I tend to just do it I tend to just keep it the careful way.
Makes sense.
Mod opponent score to 0.5. And so I'm going to do the copy and paste and then change method. So we want to do that. So we lost, so we want to add... so I'll get back to that in a minute, Nate. So Nate's saying, can you do something like set your score to your score plus 0.5? You can, but that's not quite how I want to do it. So this time we want 1 and 0, and then we can just copy and paste. So we lost here, so that, and we lost this one, so here, and then so we want to win one. Okay. Can you see any I've missed, or?
There should be one for the draw, and then
One for draw.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more.
Yep, that looks good.
Okie dokie.
Cool. And then at the end, we're going to do a final set. So we're going to set your score to your score plus mod your score. So basically, we change the mod here, and then we add it to the score at the end. To be honest, it would have been simpler to. It would have actually been simpler to do it the way that Nate suggested. So this is a just in case, because this actually threw me when I was learning programming for the first time. So you can set a variable to that variable at the moment plus a different plus something else. So, and basically what it'll be is it will use what it was initially, and then make the change, and then it will save it as that. So I always thought, but wouldn't that just end up being a constant loop? Because then you're setting your score to your score plus something, and then but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's something that you can do, and it's very useful a lot of the time.
Right.
Mod opponent score, not question marks. Now you're learning what kind of keyboard layout I have, because you can tell by what I'm making typos. You okay?
I'm just trying to figure out how you would keep it from having bugs when, like, someone goes back to the battle screen from the later on screen.
So I think the main issue from the later on screen, like this would be the same because the if statements, so all of that would be the same. So the issue is that this would apply again.
Yeah, so if you won the last battle, you could just go to the next screen, go back, go to the next screen, go back, and just score up lots of points.
So one way that we can solve this is we could say set battle start to 1 in each of these. And then so we go down to battle, and then we say if battle start is 1, then we do this, but then we also set battle start to 0.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then what we'd also probably want to do is copy just to really kind of not all kind of cut off all the issues here. If we put battle start in both for later, basically. So if you go to Squirtle and then go back again. So battle start on, then back. Then basically this one would set battle start back to 0.
So the only way to get to battle with battle start being 1 is to choose a Pokemon, let your opponent choose a Pokemon, and have the battle. Going backwards, it gets set to 0 before you have a chance to.
Yeah. So, shall we have a look at the finished product?
Yes.
Okay, so we got. So just as a note before I start going through this, this title always shows the name of the thing here. There are ways to get rid of it, but the easiest way is to just rename your file. But I don't care, so we're calling it Stream 1 Rock Paper Scissors for now. So go send out Charmander. Wait, see your opponent uses. It's a draw.
Oh.
Ooh. That's a bug.
That is a bug.
Okay, let's play the set module score. Alright, I'm gonna do it in.
Check the sidebar.
I'm gonna do it in the.
Your score, not player
Yes.
score.
And this is why you need to always be consistent with your names, kids.
Yeah.
But let's open it in debug view so we can kind of see stuff like that. It's that we need to close it and reopen it to make sure. Twine autosaves, which is very nice, but with these kind of views, it will be playing as if it's the way that you started, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So let's send out Squirtle today.
The cute little water type.
Send out Squirtle. Battle. Okay, so both of us are now on 0.5.
Yep.
So just if we go back, it doesn't change.
Yes.
And then they send out Bulbasaur. Let's go back twice. Still doesn't change. Let's see if opponent sends out Charmander.
Mm.
So, if actually one thing we could do if we wanted, was we could create another. So we could create like another battle start variable. So like battle start 2 that says, okay, has your opponent already chosen?
Yeah.
So that's something you could add into this. I'm not going to do it now because I'm lazy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Yeah. I think we've done enough.
And now the opponent has gained the lead on us.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so. And now we are trapped in an endless cycle of battling. The only purpose of this little game is to make your numbers go up.
Yep. And there's nothing you can do to control which numbers go up or by how much.
Yep. Anyway, so that's kind of the most basic. That's kind of like one of the most basic games I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really what Twine is mainly used for, which is interactive stories. But I figured this would be a good introduction.
Yeah, and it covers a lot of the stuff that you might want with interactive stories.
Yeah.
Like, you can have branching out into multiple passages coming back together. You can have variables that you're keeping track of through a series of things. You can have if-thens.
Yeah.
It kind of covers...
It kind of covers, a lot of the issues. So yeah, I think we'll leave it here today. I think these streams were in general focused quite a bit more on the mechanics side of things. Just because that's what then you like. Once you know the mechanics, you can apply it to any text you like.
Yeah.
And also, the less text we need to type out, the more text can take a while to type.
Yes. Yeah.
So I would like to thank Packbat for joining me on this little stream.
Thank you for inviting me on.
It's been a lot of fun. I think I'll try to have, not necessarily Packbat, but I'll try to have people on the stream as often as I can, just so it's not me talking all the time, with someone else to kind of interject. And in Packbat's case, point out when I've forgotten to do else-ifs.
And go on long diversions about the various decisions that you have to make with respect to random number generator.
Yeah, and also long diversions about what do we call them? Choice games? Hyperlink games? What is it?
Just generally long diversions.
Yeah.
Generally.
So.
I mean, I suppose you can also do that, but this means that we have twice as many people who
Yeah.
can do that.
And Packbat is good at diversions, so I'm glad to have Zoe on.
I'm glad to be on.
So, next week, let's see. Next week, what I might do is branch out a bit further, and we'll look at how to set up a similar thing as this, but we're going to set up a deck of cards. And we're going to try and do a blackjack game. So I won't be starting from scratch there, because there are some bits that take a while to type out. So I will basically be coming into this with a kind of folder of things I can copy and paste just to speed things up. But hopefully that will show me there. And of course, if you're in either the stream comments or the YouTube comments, and at any point you have an idea, you want to talk about an idea of ways I could do it better, or kind of ask for help on anything that you want to do in Twine, that'd be really good as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I've actually really enjoyed doing this. It's been a nice little... I really like using Twine, and I like streaming, and I like Packbat. So it's all worked out well. Right. See you guys.
Like and subscribe if you're on the YouTube.
Oh yes, make numbers go up, like the follow number.
Numbers.
I don't really care what they mean, but like if you can see a way to make a number about my account go up, please hit it. I am very easy to get locked into a Skinner box.
Yeah.
We should probably talk about Skinner boxes, because I think at some point we're just going to design a Skinner box. I mean, we sort of have here.
That seems like a thing that's relatively easy to program.
I mean, we kind of have here. We just don't have a reward system to make us feel like we're doing stuff. Like, we...
The reward system is disconnected from action.
Yeah.
So, I guess we...
Yeah, so we just need to add, like, a bit more way for you to guarantee a win, and then you'll feel great. And...
I mean, I suppose Blackjack is going to do that.
So join us next week as we create a psychological mechanism to make you just want to keep doing something. Yay!
Thumbs up.
We should really end this. See ya.